Hello, 5th grade. This is your art video, Project 18. And today we're doing basically the watercolor wash for the background of this particular scene. And eventually what you're going to do is similar to what the 6th grade are doing, is you're going to actually create later on a boat or a couple of boats that are going to go on that are going to go on this background. So you'll need to save this background afterwards. Now, I'll give you the option to do this. You can, if you notice that this one is a bluish color, which is what I'm going to do, but there is one on the background. Now, on the back side, it's sort of a create your own. If you notice that this orange, you could do that if you want. Now, there are other ways to add the sun and everything, and I'm going to need a thick brush, and so you'll need to get one from the jar whenever you're able to. But I only have one container of water. I don't need two in this particular case, because basically the only thing I'm going to be doing is the blue color in the background for this particular page. And so if you follow the directions here, first thing it says, dip your paintbrush into clear water, drag the wet brush horizontally across the top of the paper, paint the entire sky area, refilling brush with water as needed. Now, be very careful. You can always add more water, but once you put water on there, it's impossible, nearly impossible to get it off. You almost have to let it dry if that's the case. Now, I have some tissues I can use to kind of dry it out, but that's not going to be our best option. So I've dipped my my paintbrush in the water, and I'm going to use the sides to sort of scrape it off the excess. And so then I'm going to go ahead across, and I'm going to see how. All right, so I've got my, I think it's going across fine. Now, what you want to avoid doing is just painting right across that image that's written, there for the hills. And so now I can sort of see that I've got it ready to go. Okay, now, it says to, the sky should be damp but not soaked. And so it's damp now, it's not soaked. And then it says, dip paintbrush into clear water, wipe off excess on the edge of container, rub brush lightly on blue paint, brush it across the dampened paper. Now, before, well, I guess I can start doing, I'm going to do a little bit more water first, because I think it's not quite where I need it to be. But you don't want it soaked. Again, you can always add more water later. So now I've got it where I think I want it. I'm going to dip my brush into water, and I'm going to put some water here on the tray. See, the whole reason that these have trays like this is for mixing paint, and that's why these are here. Now from that, and I can pull out some water, and if I have too much, and I'm going to add this. And what I'm going to do, and this is something that's very important as you're doing this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to test a little bit, and I think I may have too much water there, so I got rid of a little bit of water and test it on here and see what my color is like, and it looks pretty good. It's not too far off from where it should be. So now I think I need a little bit less water, because you see how wet it is, but the color is there. So I'm going to add a little bit more paint to it. Now the idea here is that we brush across. The top is going to be darker, so I'm going to start at the top anyway, and I'm going to make sure it's a little wet, but it will dry. Even if you got it a little bit too wet, it will dry. But you notice how I've got, now I'm going to make it, see, I've let some of the paint, I've only gotten a little bit more of the blue for this bottom area. So I've got my color pretty good there, okay? And so this is what I'm starting with. This is how I've got my top. Is this about the same color? It looks similar to me. Now once it dries, you'll know a little bit better. I may not really have enough paint on there, because it looks like it's a little dotted. And so I might try adding a little bit more paint and some water, and coming across a little bit more, get a little bit darker at the top. Add a little bit more water. That will lighten it up on the bottom. Okay, so now I've got my color. Now once it dries, it's going to come out pretty good. Might be a little bit darker than what I wanted originally, but we're not looking for perfection here. Now notice this also, it's lighter in this area, so when I get to it, this time it says clean brush thoroughly. Now the reason I say you don't need 2 cups, it does have 2 cups normally. You have one for rinsing and the other one for getting water out of. Well, the reason is because we're all using the same color on this particular page, so I don't really need to do that. And so I'm going to use this, and since I know I have the same color I'm using, now this time it says, oops, I'd ask you to practice mixing hues, and so one of the things you can do, let's say I have that, all right, as my color, so I guess that's why they have the rinse and the dip, but I'm going to add some white to it. Somebody asked me, why does it have white? It doesn't make sense. Okay, well, that's why. You see how it made the color a little bit lighter? Now, I've got to be careful because first thing I need to do for that bottom part is, again, is to go ahead and wet it. Okay, and so you want to make sure it's wet first before you put the paint on top of it. Okay? And so this is what I'm doing right now. A little bit more wetness there. All right. So now I've gotten this wet down here. Okay. Now I can start adding my color. So I'm going to try this mixed color that I have. See how that comes. I'm going to start at the bottom because that's the dark area. So I'm going to start there. And usually your paints, when they first come out, they're a little bit darker. And this comes out actually pretty nice color here. Now, you notice that it uses up the water pretty quickly. So I'm going to add some, well, let me go ahead and use this across first. Use that paint up there. And so then I'm going to add some water here. Good bit of water because I've got that whole side to do. All right. And then I'm going to add some blue paint. All right. And just bring that over there. All right. And then I'm going to use some white paint. So usually I would have 2 cups to mix the next color. But I'll go ahead and take some white paint and add it over there. Ah, look at that. See how it mixed that color really nicely. All right. And so now I'm going to, yeah, let's see. That may be a little bit too much there. Okay, so I'm going to start, there we go. Okay, so that's a little bit more of what I was looking for. And of course it's going to get lighter as we go up. And so I'm going to use less and less paint. So let me add some more water this next time up there. Okay. Those colors mixed in there nicely. All right. Now once this dries, I mean, it kind of looks like a mess right now, I know, but it's not, that's not the way it's going to end up. It's going to actually look, most of the time it comes out really nicely. You get a lot of good color in there and good mix, and it sort of blends. I don't know how to describe it otherwise. It sort of blends with everything. As far as when it dries, it almost looks natural the way it is. I mean, this looks like it was designed that way, but really that's just from the brush strokes that they're using in this. And so I'm going to make some white in there again. And so I'm making a little bit lighter color up here because of my, I want it to be a little bit lighter up there, and so I'm going to use that. And so you see it works as far as making it lighter. Now the reason that this is lighter is because, as you see on the other side, there's actually a sun up there. All right, and so I'm going to add some of this, make the edges right. So obviously light affects the colors, and you see it's lighter in the middle here, as it is, or then and on the top here, than it is toward the bottom. All right, so now I've got my lake or pond or whatever it is pretty well done now. So what I'm going to do, this is just, you don't have to do this. This is not part of the thing, but I'm going to show you something I've done in the past. Now it's not necessarily easy, so I'm going to test something first. I've got to test, I've got to get some water here. I'm going to test this orange. That might be the wrong color, so I'm going to add this right here. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a sun in here. Okay, add some more water. I'm going to put a sun. Now, I'm going to mix it with this big brush, but I'm going to use my little brush to draw it. Okay, so the more I can get of the paint, which I need more of the paint in here. Another reason I'm using this big brush is to get as much paint in there as possible. Alright, I'll go ahead and stick that in there. And then I'm going to see if I can get some more paint on this brush and bring that in. Now, actually, you know, I think about it, I've got enough water in here. What I might do is just use this and draw my sun. So I have a setting or a rising sun, I guess. Probably a setting one, I'm thinking. Alright, so you see how that looks, and it's pretty nice shape right now. And eventually what I might do is I might, I think I have it, I think I like it the way it is. And so I'm going to leave it at that. And that's your video. That's all you need to do for this one. Yes, obviously if you do it, you're going to have to let it dry. It won't take long to dry. This one is, you can see I can't move it on the table on the desk. So just leave it there. I'll let it dry, and then later on I'll come along. That sun will, believe it or not, you will dry. I'm going to tease it a little bit, dry my paintbrush. I say tease it, I'm going to draw up some of that extra water into my brush, help it to dry faster. Spread some of that color, make sure it spreads around nicely, okay? It's going to create a nice little aura around the edge of the sun, just because it's sort of soaking into the other part. But all right, well, that's it for your video. I hope you enjoy it.